In today's presentation, we're going to be going over Chapter 10, which is School. The target audience for our presentation today is the parents of children in school. The goal of this presentation is to educate them on topics like what works in a school setting and what leads to achievement. For a little bit of background, today in developed countries, children are legally required to attend school, or at least attend until they are around 15 or 16 years old. In the past, this has not always been a requirement, since in many places, families needed their children to work and contribute money to the family. These economies were driven by manufacturing, meaning that many of the jobs did not require advanced education. Now we have advanced in knowledge to a more knowledge-based economy, and schools typically go into emerging adults.
Secondary school became relevant in America in the last 100 years. There were no laws dictating that children were supposed to go to school after the primary grades. In 1890 through 1920, which is the age of adolescence, is when states started to require secondary schooling. The graph below shows the rise in high school enrollment from 1890 to 2015. In a lot of other countries, families needed their children to help them and start working right away. As more countries enter the global economy, the more likely adolescents are to stay in school. Comparing children now to their grandparents, the children are much more literate. This is due to the fact that now it is much more common for children to stay in school. A great example of this is shown in Thailand, where about 97% of people at the ages of 15 through 19 can read, compared to about 58% of people aged to 65 and older who cannot. Males were also much more likely to attend school until the 1920s. That's when the true basis of secondary education that we still follow today was created. High school added classes such as gen ed and vocational training to prepare students for college. From the 1920s until even now, the rate of students attending still continues to rise. School systems now have classes such as physical education, art, and music. While in other countries, secondary education is controlled nationally, in America it is controlled locally and by the state, instead of the federal government. America has made an attempt to make each state more similar with their schooling is through the more recently developed Common Core program. There has not been a lot of positive feedback towards this, however, so it's something for parents to keep in mind to see which schools do follow this program, and if it's something that they want to put their kids through. When comparing adolescents in different countries, Mexico, Africa, and Turkey all scored lower than the countries that are developed. Like stated above, those are countries where secondary education is less common.
10.2 focuses on the characteristics of effective schools. There has been extensive research over the years to see if school size truly matters. As the population grew in the 20th century, the idea was to build larger schools to accommodate students. But what is actually best for students? Increased school size has pros and cons. In larger schools, children can get swept away and go under the radar to their teachers, which makes them feel disconnected and detached from the school as a whole. But larger schools offer more diverse classes and activities, so students have 4 English classes to choose from instead of just 1. On the other hand, smaller schools have less diversity in courses and activities, but students are more likely to participate in those that are available. Students are also more likely to be placed in positions of power because there are less students competing for roles. Students report that their leadership roles in their teams and clubs make them feel important and needed. With all that information in mind, scholars believe the ideal school size is between 500 to 1,000 students. In terms of class size, though, there is some disagreement. Some researchers believe there is a direct negative connection between class size and academic performance, while others believe variation between the normal range, 20 to 40 students, doesn't affect achievement. While school size does play an important part in adolescent school experience, school climate is deemed the most important. School climate is the quality of interactions between teachers and students. This encompasses student and teacher relationships, expectations and standards teachers have for their students, and the methods that are used in the classroom. The term comes from Michael Rutter, a British psychologist who has done extensive research on adolescence in schools. One of his studies concluded that students did best in schools where teachers were supportive and involved in their students' lives, but also used a stern discipline when it was needed. Students at these schools had higher attendance, higher achievement scores, and lower levels of delinquency compared to other schools with less favorable climates. The study covered many students with a variety of IQ scores and socioeconomic backgrounds and found that schools themselves made a difference in students' performance. Recent research also has confirmed these findings and show positive school climate has been linked to lower levels of depression and behavior problems. Favorable school climate also promotes adolescents' engagement in the classroom. These students are more attentive and alert in class and try to actually learn the material instead of scraping by. A favorable school climate enhances students' engagement, which in turn results in higher levels of achievement.
Regarding engagement and achievement in high school, there's multiple factors that can affect this. One of the big ones is a job. So the high schooler could get the job to show that they're responsible, to prove to their peers and parents that they can take on a real job. However, if they work more at the job, then they are likely to perform worse in school. Another factor is cultural beliefs. So the U.S. has a more relaxed schooling system compared to other countries. For example, China. While we do make students take the PSAT, SAT, and the standardized testings for the country, they are not doing schoolwork from morning to night like other students in other countries. So in addition to this, socioeconomic status regarding their social class and the family background and parental education can have a big impact on engagement and achievement. If the students' parents are not educated or they don't have the resources at home to really learn and perform the best, then they are going to do worse in school. Peers, this factor I believe is the most important. They can have positive influences, for example, like helping them work hard to apply to the college of their dreams, or do really good on a test, or be in all these extracurriculars and clubs. Or they could have a negative influence, such as dropping out, missing class, poor performance on tests and assignments. Peers can really impact the effort that a student tries, what grades they get, how much time they're spending on homework, and if they're even showing up for class in the first place. And it is in middle school that children tend to be the most influenced by their peers because they are going through adolescence, early puberty, and they want to prove themselves to their peers and fit in. And then the last important factor is parenting styles. So parents that use authoritarian, permissive, or neglectful styles can have a negative impact on their child's performance in high school. This is because they're either being too strict, not strict enough, too relaxed, and their student is not doing well in school. This can be a huge impact or have a huge impact on their performance and how they feel about school too. If a student had authoritarian parents that were very strict, made them do homework before school, after school, all the time, then they would probably dislike going to school and not like it as much.
The achievement of students in school is reliant on the environment in which they are surrounded and the adolescent themselves. Ethnic differences, gender differences, and the extremities of achievement all explain why or why not a student may achieve academically. Between different ethnic groups, there are noticeable differences seen when looking at overall academic performance. Social class, parenting practices, and friend influence are all a direct result of different ethnic groups and the values in which they hold. Overall, living in poverty is negatively associated with academic performance regardless of ethnicity. With parental expectations, emphasis and pressure on education is strong within Asian cultures, and Asian American parents tend to have a higher expectation for their children. They hold the belief that success is based on effort rather than ability, like other ethnic groups. Friends' attitudes towards education can influence a child's success both in a good way and a negative way. In terms of gender, females tend to do better than males in school. They tend to achieve higher grades, are less likely to have learning disabilities, and are more likely to go on to a higher education. This is due to girls enjoying the school environment more and having more positive experiences in the classroom compared to adolescent boys. Over time, we have seen gender differences in academia diminish and have seen female representation grow in male-dominated fields like math and science. The extremes of achievement refer to gifted students, those with learning disabilities, and those who drop out of high school. In recent years, programs for gifted students have been more common and recognize special talents students may have. There are 4 characteristics that distinguish students who are gifted.
The first being precocity. This is for those whose gifts were evident at an early age. The second is independence. These students prefer to work independently as they need less instruction and support. The third is the drive for mastery. Gifted adolescents display an intense drive to master the area of their gift and spend long periods of time doing so. The last is excellence in information processing. These students can process information faster, learn quicker, and make fewer mistakes. At the other extreme of achievement, adolescents who have disabilities may have trouble succeeding in school. The diagnosis is made when a child has normal intelligence but has difficulty in one or more academic area, and the difficulty cannot be attributed with any other diagnosed disorder. About 8% of adolescents in American schools have been diagnosed with some kind of learning disability, the most common being attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. It includes problems of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. About 5% of American children have been diagnosed with this by the age of 17. The last of the extremes are high school dropouts. In the past, dropping out of high school before graduation was not unusual and did not affect a young person's occupational prospects. Today, young people who fail to obtain high school diplomas are at risk for unemployment. By the year 2015, only 7% of American high schoolers did not obtain a high school diploma by the age of 24.
Tertiary education, college and university. Tertiary education is an important part of life for children around the world. There has been a large increase in Americans that are attending college. Charts show that about 70% of high school students in America will go on to college. The chapter also shares that females are more likely to attend college than males. Within this American population, Asian American students are the most likely group to attend college at about 81% attendance rates. Other races, including white Americans, are sitting around 50 to 60% attendance rates. Only a small percentage, about 2% of Americans, take a gap year before heading to college. A gap year could be used to get a job, go to the military, or go on a mission trip. There are many long-term benefits to tertiary education, including increased knowledge of higher-level subjects and an increase in higher-income occupations. Those who are going on to college will usually go on to do something with their degree and make a higher income than those who do not. In recent years, there has been an increase in technology use for college, termed electronic university. For example, there are more online classes available and virtual options for students. This use of technology has helped more individuals get an education despite not physically being in a classroom or being on campus.
To wrap things up, we'll just go over some of the key learning points from the presentation. We learned that school size does matter and that there are pros and cons to large and small school sizes. But overall, school climate has the biggest impact on creating effective schools. Many things can influence student engagement and achievement, including things within the school, like their peers, and even out of the school, like their parents or a job obligation. We also learned that academic achievement stems from both the environment around the student and the student themselves. Lastly, we bring up the importance of seeking higher education. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we hope you were able to gain some knowledge into school environments.